Cactus. Let's go.
We've got your wrestling, matchups, rankings, defeats. We've got your takedowns, upsets. Who won it? Who got beat?
We're Mike, Jack, and Mike. We've got those controversial calls. Top ranked challengers, but most of all, it's the best wrestling talk you ever
I think
heard.
Joey Blaze has upset potential.
We are Cactus Wrestling.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Cactus Wrestling. We have a very special guest here today, Mr. Tom Houck of Claw Wrestling. Tom, welcome back to the channel.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we are just 2 weeks away from the inaugural 2025 Claw Wrestling Draft. So, Tom, I just want to turn it over to you. 6 general managers. If you want to just I guess preface, for those who aren't familiar with Claw, give a quick rundown and then just kind of a quick briefing of the 6 GMs and what your expectations are for the inaugural draft in 2 weeks.
Sure. Well, it's a dual meet league, professional dual meet league, and this is the first season. So this is, as you just mentioned, the inaugural draft, and it's going to be at Harrah's Atlantic City at New Way Summer Nationals Wrestling Tournament, where they have about roughly 2,000 kids wrestling, all ages up, I think, through high school. And they all get free tickets to the draft. So we're expecting a enthusiastic, great atmosphere. There'll be a stage. Shane Sparks is the host, the main MC host.
Big name there. I love Shane.
On the stage. Guys from BEG Wrestling will be sort of commentators off to the side. And then some of the athletes will be there as well. We're hoping we don't know who the first round draft picks yet are, but if they can't be there, we'll have them call in on a Zoom call and be part of the stream. But it will be streamed on Flow and definitely on Flow, and then probably on 1 or 2 of our social media platforms, probably Instagram and X. But so it's a draft. Our whole league is, the season's in the fall, but the league is structured similar to like the NFL. But there'll be the draft, there'll be free agency in future years. There can be trades, and there's 6 GMs who manage the teams. The league actually owns the 6 teams, so to speak. It's not individual owners in cities, and the teams aren't geographically based. Just 6 teams that we're working hard to brand in various ways so that eventually people will pick a team that they like and root for them. Whether it's because they like the general manager, whether it's because they like the mascot, whether it's because once the teams are known, their favorite wrestler or the attitude of the wrestlers on the team. But ultimately, I think that's something really different for wrestling. There's been a lot of cards and that type of stuff over the years, but never, a sustainable dual meet league. So 6 general managers, and we wanted to get a diverse group of persons that are known in the wrestling community, have an interest in wrestling, but also allow us to reach sort of new audiences. So, for example, the one current wrestler that we have is Angelo Ferrari with Iowa Hawkeyes. He's the GM of the Leopards. And then Caden Henschel, big social media influencer and content creator, and now shoe entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Caden is the GM of the Cradle City Cicadas. Giorgio Poulos, who's also a big social media content creator, take me down for $1,000. A lot of people have seen his videos. He's the GM of Chaos. And then we have Anthony Robles, who doesn't need an introduction, but if you don't know him, NCAA champ and subject of the movie Unstoppable, which came out this year. And in the movie as well, so I like to say he's a movie star and a motivational speaker. Thrilled to have Anthony, thrilled to have all these people, but especially Anthony, because I've known him for a few years. And then the other GMs are Billy Baldwin, movie and TV star, Binghamton guy.
Yep. He used to come to the matches.
Okay, yes, and I know he's been a big supporter of the program. But Billy is a GM along with a co-GM now, Scotty Sentes, who was the head coach at Campbell and is now the executive director of the Wrestlers and Business Network. They're going to be co-GMs of the Matt Kings. And
Very
then the sixth GM was a fan contest that we did, and probably got 50 to 60 entries from around the country of different people who wanted to be the general manager of a professional sports team. And so we kind of narrowed them down and asked for people's opinions on social media, and ended up picking a group that they call themselves the FFF League. And it's 12 former D1 wrestlers, mostly who wrestled at Missouri, but some other schools as well. Ohio State, Duke might be another one in there. And their group of 12, is a team that will be the GM for the Enforcers. So the GMs will actually make the draft picks at the draft. The Cicada Henschel won a lottery that we had a couple of weeks ago, and they got the first pick in the draft. And then it's a snake draft. So Angelo Ferrari is the Leopards. He got the sixth pick out of 6 teams, but he'll have the 6th and the 7th pick. So it's very interesting whether you think it's better to have the 1st and 12th pick or the 6th and 7th. It depends on the depth of the draft and all that. I love the draft. I love, we were talking earlier, just the NFL draft is so interesting, and the mock drafts and the strategy, and for teams that struggle, like my team, my NFL team is the New Orleans Saints. So yes, you can feel like you won something on draft day, at least, if at no other time during the season. But just 2 weeks away, and today we started announcing by weight class, sort of the top contenders to be drafted, the top prospects at each weight class.
So just to kind of build some hype for those who aren't aware, I believe it was 8 names. Is that right, Tom, that you dropped today at 199 pounds?
Yes, today we announced 8 guys at 199 pounds.
So let's just go through them. So we have Marcus Coleman, 2-time NCAA All-American for Iowa State.
He's
US
beaten
Open
Aaron Brooks
finalist.
before.
Yeah,
He has.
Bill Farrell champ. Luke Serber, 4-time NCAA qualifier for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Chip Ness, 2-time All-American for UNC. Caleb Hopkins, 3-time SoCon champion, 4-time NCAA qualifier for the Campbells. Chris Foca, 2-time All-American for Cornell. We have Dakota Gear, 3-time All-American for Oklahoma State Cowboys.
This was firing.
Nate Jackson, U.S. Open World Cup World Team Trial, 2-time All-American for Indiana.
That's an expensive guy.
Mike Machiavello, NCAA champion, 2-time U.S. Open champ for the NC State Wolfpack. I mean, those are some heavy hitters. And for our viewers, stay tuned for the CACTUS draft, because you best believe that we're going to be having a draft of our own. I got to tell you, I've actually wrestled one of these guys, Nate Jackson, my senior year. He majored me, but I think he went to the semifinals that year of the NCAA championships. I know he took down Bo Nickel. He was the one guy I wrestled all season where after the match, I was like, I don't think there was anything I could do. He was just better than me. And it was just that. So if I had to make a pick out of these 199 pounders, I think Nate Jackson would be my first pick.
Very dynamic.
Gotta go with Nate, man.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Mock is a tank, though.
It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see a lot of these matchups, especially since this isn't exactly, folk style wrestling, because the pylon point and the changes that Claw has made to the sport. But I mean, there's some other names that have been announced as well, Tom. I mean, do you want to kind of go ahead and name some of the other ones that have been revealed so far?
Sure. So originally we were just announcing one name a week. So the 6 that we had announced was Zain Retherford, and he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And Peyton Hall from West Virginia, 3-time All-American. I don't think he's 4. I think 3-time All-American, but just finished 3rd, in Philadelphia this year.
Zane's pick.
we announced Zach Elam, who's a two-time All-American heavyweight for Mizzou, and he wrestled in our event. Actually, Peyton Hall wrestled in the first ever exhibition that we did in the wrestling room at West Virginia. And we were originally testing rules 3 years ago. And he didn't even remember it when he didn't remember something that I asked him about it. But Zach wrestled in our Claw Invitational last June that we had and won that tournament. He beat Ty Gadiali, who's now at Michigan, in the finals of that match. So really good wrestlers. All right, Jarrett, I have to ask Jarrett in person when I see him how you pronounce his name, because I've heard it like four different ways.
Or JQ.
I've heard it Jaquez.
JQ. I don't.
So I'll confirm with him. But Jarrett, who's just made the national team and placed true third at Final X with a victory there. And Reece Humphreys was another one that we announced.
Highlight Humphrey.
And he's still in shape. He's still a stud. So
the man, dude.
Like adult wrestling practices I've seen.
Yes.
Guys that organize like older adult wrestling practices for guys that still want to keep it going.
I remember Reece Humphrey versus Aaron Pico many a year ago, which was some good times, especially with Aaron Pico making his UFC debut.
Yeah, so all those guys were at different weights than 199. And then we also had announced Chris Foca last week at 199. But yeah, so much. We're really pleased with the depth at all the weights. In the top 8 at every single weight class, it's good, high quality wrestlers. Yeah. I think we're talking like the top 1% of wrestlers or better. And but the other big thing is these guys want to wrestle. They want to scrap. They're getting paid, but they're not doing it for the money. They just want to get out there and score points and put on a show. And all the people who registered for the draft, I forget what the final number was. I think 217 wrestlers, kind of vying for 42 starting positions. And, some guys didn't have a lot of credentials, but like they'd make comments like, I need to wrestle, man. I need to just give me a chance, like Rocky, in Rocky.
Give me a chance. Yep.
Yeah.
Just give me a chance. I'm a dog. And so we want, one of the overall purposes of Claw is to get more people to watch wrestling and to give more opportunities for wrestlers to wrestle. And so we absolutely plan on having open tournaments and a college league and women's programs and youth programs. We've already started to talk to tournament directors about that. Because it's fun to do. Everybody who does it says it's more fun than folk style or freestyle. And so that's, we need that for participation because we want more boys and girls to wrestle. That's really if this is sustainable and we don't make a penny, but we get more boys and girls to wrestle and learn the life benefits, the value of wrestling, this is a huge victory as far as I'm concerned. And it's one of the reasons why we weren't, that interested in venture capital and investors that are just looking to make money, because our mission's a little different. We need to make money. You have to make money for it to be sustainable, but that's not the primary goal. And if we can make enough to be sustainable and get kids excited about wrestling and give senior level athletes opportunities to make, more income, that's a huge win as far as I'm concerned.
So how?
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, so how does the season actually work? Is there a set number of duels that they're gonna have, and how does that lead up into a playoffs or something like that?
Yeah, so this year it's a modified schedule because we didn't know how many people would even know about Claw when we started to do our events. And when we made the decision and sort of locked in with the venues, we had 3,000 Instagram followers, maybe 2 at the time. And then sort of word started to spread and we went from 3 to we're 26 something now, but that happened relatively quick. And we're like, oh, maybe we should have had a longer season, but we already had it all planned out. The way it will work is each team is going to wrestle 3 dual meets this year. And so the 6 teams will be put in 2 pools of 3. And if you win your pool, you'll go to the championship dual meet in Pittsburgh at the end of November. That's called Super Duel 1. And in future years, we'll have sort of more playoffs, like with a wild card team and more duels and maybe more locations. But this year, it's going to be they'll wrestle their pool, and then they'll wrestle somebody from the other pool. The second place team from the other pool they'll wrestle, or if you came in last, the last place team from the other. But the top 2 teams will go to the championship in Pittsburgh at the end of November, and it will all start being streamed on our own platform called Claw Total Access, and possibly other places as well at the end of October. So it's kind of like a 5-week season, 2 duels per week. One will be free for anybody to watch every Tuesday night. There'll be free Tuesday night wrestling. And then on Wednesday night, it will most likely be behind our paywall, but very, very affordable. Pay-per-view, like $5 or something. And you can get a subscription for the entire year, which includes all the matches, plus all types of premium content for $24 a year.
That's
so
perfect.
We want to make it very affordable, but we also know that some people won't pay a dime for anything, and we want them to see it too. So it's going to be free on Tuesday nights and a modest amount on Wednesday nights. And then that will eventually lead up to the Super Duel in Pittsburgh.
When's the Super Duel in Pittsburgh?
November 29th. So that's a Saturday right after Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So it's hard to find a date that, there's problems with every date, but we ended up deciding that was as good as time of any.
All right.
I love that you guys have the paywall, but as well as like the actual free version, because I was thinking like, is this going to be a setup like Flow where you have, you pay for the subscription for the year? Because I know that in coaching, I have so many families that would like to watch more wrestling, but don't want to have the Flow account, or don't, they're still new to the sport where they're like, I don't know enough about it. They want to, but they love to watch like the NCAAs when it's on TV at the end of the year. And like, that's a huge moment for them. And we bring the whole team together and we watch it in our practice room. So having that free option is awesome for people to get their feet wet, but then having such a modest amount to have, the whole behind the scenes and get the whole picture is awesome. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we just have to make sure it's easy to say, and people have told us, boy, that's $24 for the whole year. That's really cheap.
Yeah.
You got to have enough content, that the value proposition is sort of overwhelming and obvious.
Yeah.
And, so that's key, is that we've got to find ways, and year round, to engage people. And that's where, again, the draft and free agency and the way that we're going to handle free agency is probably a future discussion, because it doesn't happen until next year. But we've just come up with this really cool, innovative system. And I think that fans are going to love, and that will help engage in the off season. And then we're also going to do different types of promotional things in the off season as well, that maybe modifying. Like one thing we've talked about is called the half-ton challenge, and it's 6 guys, and they just can't weigh more than 1,000 pounds in total. So you could weigh whatever you want. If you got a 400-pound guy, that's fine, but you got to be under 1,000.
Yeah.
And then it's like a dual meet, 6 on 6, and you might end up wrestling anybody from the other team. Like the team gets to pick, we want them to wrestle that person.
Yeah.
And so there's this strategy.
Yeah. That's like the Pokemon battle that we used to do at our club.
CACTUS. Yeah.
So that's fun. Maybe that won't work. Maybe it will. But, if nothing else, we try to think out of the box and throw different things against the wall. And it'll be, again, a way for guys to wrestle in the off season, men and women and kids, and, maybe make money or, win cool prizes, whatever.
Will it be the Claw US Open again?
Next year, I don't know. That was a big.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was awesome to see.
It was a big investment for us, and but it really helped, I think, build credibility, and we got a lot of exposure. But it was a big portion of our marketing budget that we weren't planning on for year one. It's not cheap to do that.
Right.
So that will be, we'll have to reevaluate next year in the spring.
So you had mentioned that there's over 200 wrestlers in the pool vying for, what was it, 42 slots?
42 starting spots. Yeah.
Starting spots. So so that's, what was that, 7 weight classes per team?
Yep.
And then does each team have like a backup roster as well, or how does that work?
So there's 8 rounds in the draft. So that's actually 48 wrestlers will get drafted. And then, so each team will have sort of a reserve, and it's it's very similar to the practice squad in the NFL for people that are familiar with that. So they'll be on the team, but the GM is going to have to decide who the 7 starters are. So by drafting 8, and they can always pick people off of waivers too later, but maybe somebody's weight is different than what they said when they registered, or maybe there's an injury, and so it's nice to have it, especially if you suspect that right off the bat. Like, I'm not sure if this guy's healthy, I better draft an extra guy, at this weight, in the 5th round, instead of waiting till waivers, free agency. So they will announce 7 starters, and then this person's still technically on their roster, but they can be claimed. Like, we're going to have these reserve wrestlers at our events in case there's injuries. So let's say the starting wrestler at 170 gets injured for a team. They don't have a whole team of backups with them. They don't have, backups at every weight, but there will be a reserve there at 170, at least one reserve, who they can sort of claim off waivers and put on their team. And now they're on their team. So that's kind of like, I think, like the practice squad, these guys are on the team's rosters in the NFL, but somebody can come in and grab them, I think, whenever they want. I haven't looked at it in a couple of years, but I know it kind of used to be like that. But that's how it will work. So there's not really a roster of, if there's 7 weight classes, there's not a roster of 14 people or anything. It's kind of 8. They got 1 extra guy. And then if something happens during the season and they need somebody, they'll just go to the waiver wire and, pick up somebody, to fill in that spot.
Gotcha.
Neat.
So in the interest of like continuing to grow Claw, Ono being a current Penn State wrestler, but also an international wrestler for Team Japan, do you guys see a future where you kind of get guys like Ono, or even Ono himself, that has kind of multiple ties to an international team, a collegiate team? Like, is there a plan to kind of go Claw international?
Well, right now, I've probably told you this, guys, before, and I've said it a lot. There's just so much to do.
Oh yeah, it's baby steps.
Right. And so we've got big plans in a variety of ways, and think that this can be a really powerful and broad brand. But we have to execute this first season successfully. We can't make fools of ourselves. So we have ideas about the future. I think probably before, like, some sort of international league. We've talked, first of all, they could register for the draft now.
Okay,
in fact,
that's what I was curious. Yeah.
Several people who register for the draft are world team members of other countries.
Oh, no kidding.
And actually, there's a guy from Japan who grew up wrestling in Japan, and now he's in the States. But all his credentials and accolades are these things in Japan, and so we had to research just to kind of see where he stands on the pecking order. The international guys too only have doing freestyle or Greco. So that makes it tough to sort of evaluate them. But we definitely want international guys, because that brings in a new audience potentially. And we also talked about down the road, having a Claw sort of all pro team go around the different countries and wrestle sort of all-star matches, in country X or country Y, and that would then hopefully maybe lead to sort of more international stuff as well. So that's definitely down the road. But in the short term, I think we have like 5 guys in the draft that are world team members from different countries. And so, Yeah, but definitely the short answer to your question is we want, ultimately to expand internationally and, capture part of that audience as
Okay, I
well.
love that.
Now, not necessarily specific venues, but where are these dual meets going to be held, like states wise?
So everything the first year is in Pennsylvania
Okay.
and in State College or Pittsburgh. But we definitely anticipate that changing in year two. We've always had and the reason we did that is it's going to be limited crowd for the regular season dual meets because we just didn't have to want to worry about putting butts in seats and filling different arenas. Anybody who starts the league knows the challenge of that. So we said a limited crowd, cool environment, cool lighting and cool optics, and hopefully loud and exciting, but a limited crowd. And then Pittsburgh will be a 4,000 seat arena, which we thought was realistic to hopefully fill, in year one. If you rent a much bigger place, and unless you're doing a ton of local marketing, it's difficult, and we just didn't want empty seats, everywhere, and all the cost of doing that. So, but in future years, our original plan was to go on tour, and every event would be in a different city. And we talked about, New Jersey, somewhere in New Jersey or New York. We talked about Southeast Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. We talked about Raleigh. And interesting, now that we're getting a lot of sort of inquiries coming in on social media, like, will you come here? Will you come there? So we've looked at Minnesota and different places, and eventually we'll probably sort of sell franchise rights, in different cities where a local group will be responsible for, sort of the local marketing and the local sponsorships. Because it is hard. We picked Pittsburgh because we have really good connections there. And, that was really the biggest reason. We knew a lot of people there and a lot of people that we could go to and ask for help right off the bat, who haven't seen anything yet, but knew us and, were willing to take the time to listen and learn more about it. But that's key, because if you just go in, if we just pick some city and try to do marketing and we don't know anybody, you're almost setting yourself up for failure.
That makes sense. Fair.
So today is July 7th. What can we anticipate in the 2 weeks leading up in terms of announcements for I'm going to try and get this posted as soon as possible, but in the next coming days, what can we expect to see announced from you guys?
So one-way class per day, and we'll announce roughly 8 guys every day. So it's a lot of posts, but we didn't want to just make one post and list 8 guys. We wanted to give them each their props and tell a little bit about them. So it's a lot of posts, and it's also kind of intentional because there have been some other big signings with other leagues and stuff, and they've gotten a bunch of attention, and people kind of forgot about Claw. We've been at this for 3 years, researching, preparing, testing, and then all of a sudden it's like we kind of faded into the background a little bit because some big names signed elsewhere. And as you could tell from the 199-pound weight class, we got really good wrestlers and some big names too. And there'll be more. And it's really cool because 199's kind of stacked with a bunch of former All-Americans who are still competing and still doing well in freestyle. There's great parity in almost every weight. So one of the weights, actually tomorrow, depending on when you post this, on Tuesday, we're announcing all the 145-pound wrestlers. And there's a lot of guys, there's some NCAA All-Americans, but there's a lot of guys that are blood round guys who were multiple time blood round guys. And it's, have we announced any of them yet? I don't know. We haven't announced any of the 145 pounders yet, but it's and a lot of them have wrestled at NCAAs, maybe even in the blood round or in the quarters. And, it was overtime or it was a crazy match. And so I think it's going to lead to great wrestling. And so again, it's sometimes guys are household names and sometimes they're not. But if they want to wrestle and they're aggressive and they're going after it, I think it's going to be, with our rule set and then the whole structure of the league, hopefully something that's definitely game changing for the sport of wrestling. That's what we're hoping for at least. But yeah, one weight class per day. Back to your question, Jack, and and then after that, we'll sort of release sort of pound for pound rankings, and then next week's kind of just telling a little more about the athletes because we want to promote them, and also mock drafts, which think will be fun because there's absolute strategy, and there could be trades too, which could be really cool. The draft, I didn't say this before, just real quick to follow up on the draft. There'll be a big stage. I mentioned Shane Sparks being the MC. The athletes, if they're there, will come out and get their jersey and hold it up and their hat, just like in the NFL. Yeah. We'll have live call-ins from the GMs and the different athletes who can't make it. But all the kids that are there are going to be highly encouraged, and all the families to pick a team. And they need to support their team. Now, like Caden Henschel is very popular in social media. So when we go to like youth tournaments, a lot of the kids will come up and tell us they're Cicada fans already. And eventually I found out why. It's because they love Caden.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same with everybody. We were at we were at Final X, and some guy came up and said he's the biggest Anthony Robles fan ever. And so the Hammers are his favorite team now. And he wanted to know if he could apply to be the mascot for the Hammers. And this is like some high school kid. And we're like, you know what? Yeah, let's get your information. Yeah. But if they don't have a team yet, there's going to be a DJ. It's going to be a festive atmosphere, and we're going to have all this merch to give out to kids. Like, if you want this free enforcer's uniform, you need to be going wild tonight when the camera comes on you, when the enforcers make their draft pick, right? So we'll have body paint so guys can paint their chest, with team, everything that, you just watch the NFL draft and copy as much as you can, right? Nice. Nothing particularly original there. Just look.
Is there already team apparel for sale? Available for sale or not yet?
There is not, but there will be very soon. The online store needs to be and is supposed to be and should be and will be up before the draft. We'll be selling some like commemorative T-shirts there. And then online, there'll be pre-orders for authentic team uniforms. You can get their fight shorts or jerseys or compression shirts. And then we'll also be selling hats for like baseball hats for each team, and also the commemorative draft shirts online. So sort of a limited inventory to start, but something from each team, claw stuff as well. And then by the time the season comes around, we hope to expand that, the sweats and, sweatpants, gym shorts, and a variety of other things.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about this. I think now is almost a better time than ever because it's kind of all eyes on this at this point in kind of the calendar year of wrestling. That the college season's over. We just had U.S. team trials and whatnot, Final X. So all the attention is going to be on this. So I'm really excited. I think the prospect of even just having like fantasy wrestling, like that idea sounds super fun as like part of a podcast or even as fans in general. So we're really stoked for this first season, and really excited to learn the names. I have a guess. When you said Blood Round 145, you don't have to tell me, Tom, but I'm guessing Mickey Philippi because
that's who I was thinking of.
He was a 4-time Blood Round guy, and he's right around that weight class, and he's Pittsburgh. So I won't be surprised if he's one of the names, but I mean, he's one of those guys I always expected to crack the podium. Yeah. But yeah. I guess I'm just gonna have to wait until tomorrow.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to decide if I should give you exclusive news right now or But actually, I will, since he is not. He is not.
Hey, he's a
All
guy to
right.
get though. Bad for the future.
If he was in the draft, I wouldn't have said anything. But yeah, it's interesting. A lot of guys, they just don't know what claw is yet,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they hear some, and there's also the rules are a little different, and amazingly, there's some wrestlers that are really really good, and he's not. I'm not saying he's one of them. We did not talk to him, but there's a lot of guys that are really really good, and they're just sort of kind of afraid to do a different style.
100%.
And what if I'm not good at it? What if I lose to so and so who I beat in folk style? And that's why I love the guys. I respect so much everybody who registered for the draft. It's like we just want to wrestle. Tell us the rules. Well, we just want to wrestle, and that's cool. They're not doing it for money. They're not doing it for any other reason, and they just love wrestling. And if there's nobody in the arena or there's 15,000 people, they don't really care. So that's really cool. And I wanted to add real quick, I don't think I mentioned this. We just signed a contract with Wrestle Madness to create custom fantasy leagues for us. So they do a lot of pick'em contests now that people can do, and we'll have that. But they're also going to create, they're designing and developing some special fantasy wrestling leagues that you might see like in the NFL, where you there's a salary cap type thing, and so we're really excited about that. We just signed the contract, but it's going to be ready for the season, and we're also going to have kids fantasy contest that's a little different. It's more fun stuff. We used to do this at my house when I'd have people over for the NCAAs. We'd give everybody a sheet of paper, and at each weight class there was just something that they had to predict, like who will be called for stalling first, or how if David Carr was wrestling, what's the over under on when they say his father was Nate Carr, on the broadcast, stuff like that anybody could do.
Yeah, it's
right?
like a prop bet sheet we do for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be like, we'll have that for kids, who
Nice.
that, and then they can watch and have something. And when we did that, the kids were always, they were adding up their points, just on a sheet of paper. And so we have to engage people in new ways, if we're going to grow the sport.
Totally.
I'm excited for the claw home kit where I could set up pylons in my basement and have my cousins come and wrestle my wife or something.
No, you could do it for your youth. You might as
I was
well.
gonna say like we would love to have like a youth warm up even for like be like, hey guys, like let's do something fun today. Because sometimes we do like soccer or something before practice. I would have the youth kids would be going bananas for that. They would lose their mind at the pylons because we did a freestyle duel to end the season with coaches got involved and they were going nuts over like that's a 4 point throw. No, he had control. You know, it was so they would love this. I can't wait for I hope, one day to have like an at home kit we could, replicate claw in our own backyards.
We definitely, part of starting as early as next year, there's going to start being youth tournaments around the
That'd be
country.
awesome.
And a little bit modified rules just to make it a little simpler for new people.
Mhm.
But pylons and quick score bonus.
Yep.
And, we're still trying to decide if you have to win the round or if it's just cumulative points, because it requires a different scoreboard. And, that could be, it's just easier to use, for the table workers to keep using track. But a lot of, push outs. And we're hoping then that leads into, there's youth tournaments all around the country, sort of like Mawa.
Yep.
And that leads to a regional or a national championship, at the youth level in claw style. So I think that would be really cool. And the more kids doing it, then the more likely they'll be to watch, the professional league and the men's, and they'll know what's going on.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Mike's, do you have any other questions for Tom while we have him?
Let me see. I had my question list, but he was answering them as we were going, so I was crossing them off.
Yeah, I think I hit everything that I was going to ask.
I
Tom,
guess.
what? Oh yeah, Mike, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say like since we've last had you on is like, has there been any like big rule changes that you guys
Yeah.
have worked towards, or like, hey, we love this, but we actually think we're going to move towards this a little bit more, or is it pretty much where things are pretty set in stone at this point?
I think I can't remember exactly when I was on, but the only change we made since last June,
Mhm.
and I know it was after that, was uh, that the top person can get a pylon point as
Okay,
well.
nice.
And we did that in the Jordan Oliver Bryce Andonian match in
Yeah,
November on UFC Fight Pass. And it just, because it was the bottom person had too much of an advantage, and
yeah,
that's
that's I agree with that.
the pylons were tested for years in different number of pylons, different locations of the pylons. At one point, we started the bottom person in referee's position down flat instead of in referee's position to make it harder. And then, so a lot of modifying and tweaking and testing. And but this at our event last June, a lot of times the bottom wrestler had sort of this big advantage on the pylon. They just take off for the pylon, and if they could get there in a short amount of time, they got a pylon point and a quick score bonus in a 1 minute period. And so even if the guy cuts them, then it's tough for that other guy to win the round. So by making the top person able to get it as well, it really neutralized that. And it was interesting because Jordan Oliver was all of a sudden we realized, length and sort of wingspan is a lot more important because of pylons. Because there's a video clip of Jordan Oliver on bottom going for the pylon, and you can see him looking at it. He's getting ready to reach it, and Bryce Andonian just comes over top and slaps it down because I think his arms were so much longer. So it's kind of like if you've got shorter arms, you need to stay away from the pylons probably. Uh, which is interesting. Wingspan will be like a new. We're going to measure. When the guys come in for their media day and stuff, we'll get height and weight, but we'll probably measure wingspan too.
Hand size like the NFL Combine.
Yeah, but that's the only change really. Anything else isn't even. I can't even remember. It's so little. So the rules seem to be in pretty good spot.
Awesome.
Tom, where's the best place that people can find you guys and stay tuned for all the up-to-date information? Go ahead and plug yourself.
Definitely social media on Instagram or X, I would say, are the two main ones. All of our handles on all social media is claw_wrestling, claw_wrestling. And we're also we've recently started to get into TikTok and build an audience there. We're on YouTube and Facebook, but a lot of the most success we've had has definitely been on Instagram. A lot of young people following, which is exactly what we want. The demographics, when you see of who our new followers and stuff, it's high school kids and middle school wrestlers and college wrestlers. And, it's not the traditional wrestling demographic viewing audience, of sort of older guys, like it might be for some of the stuff on TV. And so that's huge. If we can, and then we can give them opportunities to wrestle in claw and, get them hooked up to a certain team that they like and want to follow the draft and free agency. And wrestlers, come and go, but you continue to root for your team. Hopefully you're creating lifelong fans. And so Instagram and X, but any of those other ones work too, but it's always claw_wrestling. Thanks for asking that.
Of course. Anything else that you want to mention?
I don't think so. I really appreciate you guys and what you're doing, and I appreciate you having me on. And I haven't forgotten the idea about a team or a mascot being the cactus. It's in my file, and every time I see the cactus guy, I think of that. So, and I just you guys have a new theme song? Is that?
Look at that! Yeah, as of
Today's
no,
video.
today. Yeah, today was the first.
Dan.
video with the new theme song. So our uncle actually, our uncle and our mom
Oh man.
co-wrote that, and that's our uncle singing it. So they had a
Really?
lot of fun writing
I,
and performing it.
I, that's awesome. That's awesome. I really liked it, and I figured it was like AI generated, so that's even
Oh
cooler.
no.
Funny
We
enough,
encrypted.
I did do an AI generated one, and it was actually really good. But in the spirit of creativity and content creation, I didn't have the heart to go
Yeah.
through it. So
We instead enlisted our family. So
who is very
they
creative.
are musically
So
inclined and they did a great job.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, that was. I love it. I loved
yeah.
it. Uh,
So no, Tom, thank you so much for coming on, and
Thanks.
I know I can speak for both mics here that we're gonna have so much fun uh, creating so much claw related content. I'm excited
I'm ready
to
for the
do a mock
draft, dude.
draft.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Amen, and we're gonna have to get two others to have our
Oh,
own
yes.
like
Yeah.
at
But
home GMs,
we can
maybe
get
Dan and someone else
Dan.
or something.
I'll get my brother for this, so he'd be
Uh,
down.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Tom
yeah,
loves the draft. He's a big mock draft guy for everything. So
Okay.
I'll tell you,
we'll definitely have six GMs for the at home Cactus Claw League. So.
it's hard. It's hard because some of these guys were really, really good,
mhm.
but they haven't, that they're a high school coach, so you don't know exactly,
Yeah,
what their training routine is and who their partners are. And then we also got and then there's D2 and D3 and NAIA and junior college guys, and you don't know exactly how that
dude,
compares to some D1 guys. And there's Greco guys,
yeah.
beach guys. So it's kind of just, different ages. So it's very hard to
And
rank.
most people haven't even wrestled this
That's what I was
rule
saying. The
set too.
style is so different. I mean, you have someone like Nate Jackson, who's such a renowned freestyle wrestler, but is in a way less impressive in his folk style results than some of the other 199s. And it's going to say like, hey, like,
What are you
what is the
saying?
best
Beating
style
me
for
wasn't
Claw?
impressive?
Yeah.
He only majored Jack. I mean, I don't know.
He only majored in.
Um, I think that no, but I think that it's going to be super cool to see how these different styles, what is the dominant style for Claw for best
Yeah.
Claw performance.
And I think
I'm
it's
super
you
excited
got
for
to
it.
be good. You got to be
You
good
gotta
in all
be able to scrap.
positions. And we had these two guys from another country that were Olympians. They had to withdraw from the draft
Mm.
about 2 weeks ago, but they were at Zane's weight. And so these guys were really good. And well, I mean, Zane's really good too in freestyle, but they were really good in freestyle. But it's like, what's going to happen when Zane gets on top of
Yeah,
them?
dude, bow and arrows. I'm expecting a lot of
Yeah.
craziness from him on top. He might be the number one pick. He could be the number one overall
Well,
pick.
we'll see what other names are released.
Yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excitement coming out of this, man.
Yeah.
Well, what's cool is even if he's like pound for pound number one, which maybe he is, maybe he isn't,
Yeah.
but kind of, you got to look at each weight and how much depth it. Like
Yep.
99, maybe you don't take somebody because you're going to get somebody good later.
Mhm.
So, but that's interesting. That first pick, you really got to hit that.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the best wrestler, it's who can get you the most points, right? So if there is a weight class where there's like one standout, that might be the first pick in the draft, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have the elite guy at that weight. And then it depends who else is at Zane's weight, to see if, you would take him. So it's, different views and different opinions. And it's fun. So we hope everybody has fun with it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tom. Appreciate the time as always. Go check out Claw Wrestling if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned for more announcements from Claw, from Tom and team in the next coming weeks. And eyes on, mark your calendars. July 21st is the inaugural draft date, where everything's gonna be going down. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Cactus Wrestling.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.